Scene! There is a man who can string the bow like no other. But in order to prove who he is, he must shoot a row of axes into the target. Then we will know who he is. Then you will have to like and subscribe. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to YouTube channel. Last night I got to check out the Odyssey, and I'm not gonna lie, this was definitely my first Christopher Nolan movie I actually sat through and completely watched it. So maybe I'm not on the Christopher Nolan glaze. And if you guys didn't know what the Odyssey was like me, well, the Odyssey follows King Odysseus from Ithaca on a prodigious 10-year-long journey home after the Trojan War. Cursed by Poseidon, he fought mythical creatures, hostile gods, while his faithful wife Penelope fended off greedy suitors in Ithaca. It is an epic about survival, loyalty, and ultimate struggle to belong. So yeah, this movie was definitely like, I know it was super hyped, and I was actually surprised with how many people were in my theater, because in my state, like, nobody really goes to movie theaters. Like, I usually watch it with maybe max would be like, well, there was only one instances where the theater was completely full, and that was for Avengers Endgame. Other than that, this has been probably my second most full theater ever. Like, it was genuinely like full. So the experience, because like at the end of the movie we did give it like a round of applause. It was amazing, you know. I loved the experience. But yeah, let's get straight to the things I like. Now, in the beginning of the movie, I was struggling trying to figure out, okay, where does it pick up? Because we're seeing all these different characters. Who are we going to follow? Is it not going to be linear? Are we going to be tapping in with this characters and this characters all the time? You know, I was trying to figure out, so I was a little confused. Not confused entirely, but I was trying to like, okay, which character am I going to invest in? Because if we're going to see all these characters, is one of them going to die? Or which one's gonna have more screen time? You know, which one do I want to feel sadder for? But after I'd say like 20 minutes ish, it kind of picks up, and then you follow Odysseus again. You know, don't get me wrong, I have nothing against you know, the son, the Timalicus, I think that's what it was, Tom Holland. But I do gotta say some things. Whenever I go to the things I didn't like, I'm definitely gonna have to say some things. Anyways, one of the things I did like was like the Cyclops scenes. You know, I was really surprised. I was gonna be like, okay, how is Christopher Nolan gonna try and do this grounded and practical way? And I'm not gonna lie, I like what they were going for. I feel like I definitely know some of the techniques they put in there, because I feel like they put an actual person on a suit and they did a miniature scene. I believe that with the heart. Like, I noticed it, I'm like, oh no, that's definitely gonna be in a movie breakdown. But yeah, no, that scene was definitely scary, and how loud the Cyclops was. Like, I mean, we're talking about a giant. Like, of course that's gonna be like loud, like Jesus. But that was like really loud in the theater. I was not expecting it to be that loud. But yeah, I love that scene. Like, whenever it goes dark, and oh my god, like, I don't want to spoil it. I want to leave that for the spoiler section, but man, I love that scene. I'll explain it in the spoiler section. Another thing I did like was, I like the soundtrack. The soundtrack was like with the bow. Every time Odysseus was string it, I did like that. I was also feeling a lot for Odysseus. For some reason, I was seeing myself in his shoes. I'm like, yo, am I this broken too? What the hell? How am I supposed to? Yo, I don't got no work to come back to, so how am I supposed to fix myself? Maybe I gotta go on a 10-year journey to Trojan. I definitely like the realism, like the grounded side, but I'm actually surprised Christopher Nolan was actually going for, you know, he was throwing in some mythical creatures. It could have been CGI'd, and that's fine. You know, I wanted to see how it worked, so I'm definitely happy about that. I also love the third act of the movie. There was a scene where I genuinely felt like sad whenever Odysseus finally comes back and his best friend is there. That scene, like, just seeing it, that was like probably the only one that really hit me in the heart. The other ones, don't get me wrong, they were amazing, but I don't know why I was only feeling that way with that scene. Another thing I did like was, like, you know, obviously the practical way that things worked in that movie. Like, the way it represented, like, the thunder and storm for Zeus and, you know, Poseidon. I was loving it. Like, the way they were getting thrown around, the way they were, like, all that. Especially the combat. Like, I'm telling you, the fighting scenes, the Trojan War, like, it was genuinely sad. Like, once, like, the second half of the movie picked up, I was genuinely, like, feeling it. I was like, damn, bro, this, especially the third act. And the quotes they were saying, oh my god, I was loving whoever wrote that script. That's a round of applause right there. Because this is a scene with the sirens and the way they're describing the song. I was like, holy shit, that's genuinely peak writing right there. That's genuinely peak. It's like it explains it perfectly. And I don't know how you get that. I deadass don't even know. So yeah, for my first time seeing a Christopher Nolan movie, especially the Odyssey, like I came here blind. I skipped the line freshman year because of COVID. So I didn't really get to read the whole Odyssey entirely. So I was here and there, noticing some things. I'm like, huh, wait, I know one of them gets stabbed. Who's the one that gets stabbed? And then, it gets shown. It's like, oh, I thought it was 20 years, not 10 years. And then, it shows and all that stuff. So to me, maybe this movie is better than what it's supposed to be, because I didn't notice that until my friends. He told me, "Oh no, this is this. Oh, this was supposed to happen in this movie. They didn't put. Oh, this is how it's supposed to look." And that's where we get into the bad things that I didn't like. Don't get me wrong, this movie is genuinely peak. I actually liked it, like really liked it, because it reminded me of like those old like Trojan warrior movies, like Troy, like Hercules from with The Rock. I really liked that movie, and it kind of reminded me of that type of same premise. Oh, I forgot to bring this up, but I also love the ending. I gotta say, I love the ending. After all that struggle, I loved the ending. Alright, back to the things I didn't like. One of the things I didn't really like, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't feeling some emotions in the scenes. It's not that there was bad acting. No, no. Like, I think the acting was just, it was good. But I just wasn't feeling the feeling intended for some scenes. I think I only genuinely started like feeling like teary eyes was like closer to the end, like when the third movie, after like they're destroying Troja, this is explaining what happened in Troy and all that stuff, that's usually when I start picking up on the emotions. And then for the final act, like there's a certain character, like the kind of like the main antagonist, sorta. Whenever like it came to their fight, I don't think I genuinely like, yes, he was annoying as a character and like I wanted him gone, but it wasn't like a kill that boy, it was like, yeah. I mean, did I celebrate like that? Yeah, I celebrated. I don't think I was feeling those emotions. And then for the like heartbreak scenes too, like I understood it. I understood that. I was like, oh, I know Penelope's sad. Like, man, imagine having to have all these suitors come by you and then your husband still hasn't come back. I was feeling that sympathy and compassion for her rather than like truly like feeling sad. Like, oh my God. And maybe that's the intent emotion. But like some of the scenes, I was genuinely having a struggle. I'm like, should I be feeling away right here? Will it get cut into something else? Switch up to another character? And some of this, like I said, it kind of felt anticlimactic. I was like, oh, I mean, yeah, there you go. Another thing I didn't really like was there's an ocean scene. Well, let me be more specific because half of the movie is ocean, if not most. There's a scene where they have to travel through like two traps. That's all I will say. There's a vortex and there's like a pile of rocks. All I'm gonna say is, once my friend brought this up, because to me, if he didn't bring this up, I would be like, oh, okay. So there goes a vortex and there's a monster. I might have to say this for the spoiler section, because I'm not trying to spoil it that much. But just know, once my friends told me, oh no, this is supposed to be this and that's supposed to be that, I was like, oh, well, then that kind of puts this movie down. If you just told me that was a random monster, I would be like, okay, it makes sense. Even though it doesn't really make sense in that scene, why it came out the rocks. But once he told me what that monster was, I was so disappointed with the designs and what they were going for. I was genuinely like, what the hell? That is not what that monster should be, and that's one of the things I was having problems with. It was like the way they were doing some things, especially like, oh, there's this scene, like it's in the promo, with the giants where this is like standing like this with the sword. Yeah, when it came to that scene, there was something that I was confused. I'm like, does this happen in the book and other adaptations? I was so confused how they were coming back to the same place, trip shifting, but they were able to escape. I was like, was that ever in the story? Because like I said, I never really read into it. I never really followed into like the Odyssey. I wasn't like looking up like research before I went to go see this movie, because this was a movie. If I went to see it, I'd see it. If I didn't, I wouldn't really be worried. I'd probably watch this streaming because I'm more excited for Spider-Man. And speaking about Spider-Man, Tom Holland's character, man, like I understand that's probably like part of the character. They're probably staying like accurate to the story. Odysseus' son, Telemachus, I don't know, man. Sometimes I'm like, yo, Peter, do something, bro. You Spider-Man. Come on, Tom Holland. Because, in some of the scenes, he was being like wussy. Like, he was getting beat up. He was getting bullied. And for half of the movie, there's just one scene at the final fight where, oh my God, that person, like that enemy, pissed me off more than the main antagonist. Like, I genuinely wanted him dead. I was like, kill that boy! Tom Holland's character would just get like pushed back and like, oh, they're sending all the weapons out for the rest of the suitors to fight Odysseus. Great. Okay, Tom Holland get back up, fight, boom, gets thrown away. Tom Holland loses again. It's like, okay, bam, 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 bam. send more swords. And like that was like it was like that going on for like a quiet little minute, like I'd say like 2 to 3 minutes. And man, that was pissing me off so much. That character, I needed him gone. That pissed me off a lot. And you know, maybe it's part of the story, but man, if that was my son, I'm like, yo, you gotta fight with me. But I understand, you know, it was the law of zoos and stuff like that, even though it doesn't make sense. Now, what I definitely think they could have done better was definitely try to stick to like a, like I understand why they had to go with English, like just plain on English, but I wish they could have put, like, that was one thing I was noticing and it was kind of throwing me off. Maybe that's why I wasn't attaching to the emotions enough, is because you're seeing like a gladiator start speaking like me, you know? Like imagine me showing up with the horse to Troy and be like, I was sent here by Odysseus to capture Troy, you know, instead of you know, I was sent here to Troy to take over. This is a gift for Athena. You know, I was having trouble with the accents and dialects. I would have honestly liked if it was a little bit more accurate to how it was back then. I don't know how they would speak back then, so maybe that was a struggle, and I understand why they would go with the English, you know, then yeah, that makes sense. But I definitely would have put that more. And another thing I feel like they could have done better is they could have just leaned into the full fantasy. Like I understand Christopher Nolan likes to do things grounded, but like if you're gonna do the Odyssey, you just gotta fully lean. Like you leaned on it with the monsters, you know, the giants, the Cyclops, but I feel like you could have done it more. You know, you could have switched it up a little bit, you know, with the creatures I was talking about in that one scene. You could have done something. I understand what the vortex was, you know, that was supposed to be like a metaphorical name. You know how caves have like, oh, you know, the devil's anus or the devil's penis, and it's not a literal, you know, devil's penis or anus. Well, that's kind of how this movie was, you know. It was giving names to certain nature phenomenons that would be sort of like the monsters in the story. So I was like a little disappointed with that once my friends called it out. But yeah, you know, but I can definitely justify that because, like I said, with the whole like giving names to like caves and stuff, you can give it like a cool name, like the ocean vortex. For example, you can call that like the Death Destroyer, and it won't literally be Death Destroyer, but that's the name of it. So yeah, I wish they could have leaned in a little bit more on the fantasy. Like it was cool. Like another standout, what's with Cersei and the pigs? Like that scene was genuinely, I was like, yo. Like it wasn't as bad or as scary, but it was definitely like, whoa, that's just crazy. See, that's why it's haram to eat pigs. Shout out my Muslims. Now I understand why you guys don't eat bacon. But yeah, if I was to rate this movie, I usually don't rate them anymore. I usually just say if I liked it or not, and if I recommend it to you guys, because my ratings aren't usually the best, you know. But if I had to, I definitely would give this movie a 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. You know, I had fun with my friend. I loved it. Like I said, from the second, third, once it picks up, I was following that story, and I was feeling like sad. I was feeling tired too. I was like, God, when are we gonna finally get back here? Not because I was like, the pacing was bad. No, no, no. It's not like the, oh God, can this movie just end? No, no, no. It was the, God, can we just have that happy ending already? You know, because you were genuinely getting attached. You were following Odysseus like you were one of the soldiers, and it was very immersed. Like, at least for me, I didn't eat that whole day. So it was very immersed. Whenever they would be starving, I would be starving too. But yeah, I definitely recommend you guys go check this one out. It might not be the most accurate. You know, just keep your expectations low. Remember, some of the monsters might not be as cool as the stories or may not even show up. There'll just be names. But definitely go check it out because the story is amazing. That story, like I said, the quotes that were said in that movie, from the sirens to, you know, the Trojan War, whenever Odysseus is recapping it, that was genuinely beautiful. Alright guys, now that's the end of this video. For the ones that came here for no spoilers, if you guys don't want to get spoiled, you guys can leave now. You know, there's the, you know, text I always put on the screen. You guys have like a few seconds until I stop talking, and then we'll switch to the spoiler section because I definitely gotta say some things. Alright, you guys have been warned. Now, if you're sticking around, you probably want to hear what I have to say for spoilers, or you already saw this movie. Alright, let's start with some of the things. For the Cyclops scenes, like the way they shot it, it was looking clever, and I liked the way they did it. They went in the dark, you know, the way they were grabbing it, you couldn't see it, and you would feel it, like the lighting they were shooting it. That's another thing I noticed. I don't know if it's true, but the way they were shooting the movie, it genuinely felt like you were holding a lantern. So whenever that cave scene happened and, you know, the Cyclops closed the door with the rock, it's like you could only see the light from the campfire that was extending. Outside of that, the cave was so dark and you couldn't even see the giant. And that's what I love, because that actually put real horror into it. I'm like, oh shit, I can't see it. And once they stabbed his eye too, that scream was loud, like really loud. Speaking of monsters, like I said with the vortex and the, you know, the rocks, apparently that vortex was supposed to be the queen of monsters. That's what my friend said, you know, the one that has like a lot of teeth in there. So once my friend told me that, I'm like, oh, that kind of makes this movie a bummer. But then that's when I justified it. I'm like, oh, you can just give it that name. Like I said earlier, you can give it that name and not be a literal monster. It can just be like the vortex, because it means something like it's like big and it will kill you. So I could definitely find a way for them to justify that why they didn't add the teeth. But the one that got me more confused and the one I genuinely disliked was the Hydra. You know how I said, oh, the rocky things and oh, how it goes back to the rocks. I did not like that. If that was like, once my friend told me that was the Hydra, I was like, oh, I don't like that. It was like, it was so weird because it was a rock and it was grabbing them. Yes, it had mouths. It kind of looked like it had like snake mouths and faces, but it just wasn't like the Hydra I know. I'm used to the dragon type of Hydra that has like the face. It didn't have to be a dragon. It could have been anything else. The way they were doing it, it had like a weird neck. It was stretching like a rock. I thought it was a rock thingy. And it definitely had like rock movement. Maybe that's how it happens in the Odyssey. It becomes a Hydra from the rocks. Then in that case, then yeah, I'm wrong. But if I'm not wrong and they just did it for the movie, then yeah, that's something I did not like. I did not like the way they did the Hydra, or the way they were doing some stuff in the forest. That was the most I was confused. There was a kid that was huge, then there was full-on giants with armor that just started slaughtering, and then they were moving the trees in the forest around, and I was so confused because I was like, are they coming back to the center? Are they not able to leave? Every time they try to escape, they come back to the same place? But no, because eventually they do escape. So I'm like, what the hell is going on with this scene? Maybe it is in the story. Like I said, I never really checked it out, but I was so confused. All right, now let's go to the ending. I am so happy Odysseus and Penelope finally get to be together, and Tom Holland got to become the king of Ithaca. Now, let's talk about Tom Holland in the scene I was talking about. Tom Holland's character, like I said, if this is part of the story and it's accurate, then I kind of hate that story, because if they are portrayed to be like wimpy and they don't really help Odysseus, then okay, I understand it, and I'll be less harsh in it because that's part of the story. But man, Telemachus, Jesus, dude, he would like hesitate for like a scene where they're all jumping Odysseus, and then like, oh shit, I can't help, and then like not do anything. Like I said, I know it's probably because of Zeus's law. It doesn't make sense because the enemy I was talking about that was giving them weapons through that hole, Telemachus ends up killing that enemy. So I'm like, wait, so Jesus broke Zeus's law regardless. Why does it matter if you couldn't help your father, but now you broke it for this enemy? Like, if you could have broken it any time, why didn't you break it for your father? I mean, sure, that was his father's request. It's like, oh no, you will not fight. This is going to be my fight. And I'm like, okay, he probably respected that. And he only did it when he was about to die. And see, now saying it that way, I understand it more. But that was something I didn't really like. I didn't like how wimpy he was, but I was satisfied. Like I said, once he killed that enemy, I was more happy about him when the other guy died. The one that Odysseus kills, the main antagonist, I forgot his name, but the one that Robert Pattinson plays, oh my god, he needed to die. But that was like the one I was talking about, how it was annoying, not entirely like, kill that boy. Was I celebrating like that once he killed? I'm like, yes, kill him. But it was never like a rage. I was just like, finally get this annoying ass character out. Compared to the enemy that Tom Holland killed, I was like, yes. Yes, I was like genuinely happy. But man, I'm so happy they got the happy ending, like I said, man. Because going through that journey after everything we saw, and when Odysseus could have seen his wife again, and instead he waited, he acted like a beggar. Oh my god, I was so happy with how we ended. And like I said, we all gave a round of applause there in the theater. It was peak. So yeah, that is the end of the video. You guys let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Let me know anything that I didn't really call out from this and that I probably missed. Let me know all that in the comments below, or anything you guys want to add. Did you like this movie? Do you not like the way I reviewed it? And if you guys haven't yet, make sure you guys like and subscribe, because I got more of these movie reviews coming up. The next one is definitely 100% Spider-Man, so you guys do not want to miss that one. And you can join my movie credits. I'm saying, these people, these are my gladiators, and we will go on a 10-year journey, but they're all coming back with me. I will be like Odysseus, and I will lead this group of people, not to their doom, but to their happy ending. That's right. All these people are going to have a happy ending. All these people are going to come back to their wives, and if they don't have wives, they're going to get a beautiful wife. They'll have children and have a happy ending, and all you have to do is join my army by subscribing. Now, it's time for me to go and prepare for our war. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.